Hello there, and welcome to another edition of Language Bites. Today I bring to you some modal verbs. Um, let's dive into some uses. We may use the following modal verbs to talk about team management, for example, when it comes to giving advice to team members, compliance and regulations when explaining company policies and legal obligations, when dealing with project planning and project management, discussing necessary actions to complete tasks, and last, for customer support when providing customers with advice. I'm talking about some modal verbs. Now, when we talk about modal verbs, we are talking about these elements that work together with verbs and that add a certain layer of meaning. As you can see in the title, today we are talking about advice, obligation, and necessity. So, we're going to focus on these extra layer of meaning, what we call modality. That's why they are modal. And then always bear in mind that modal verbs are extremely flexible in their structures. That is, we can make not only affirmative sentences, but we may also find them in negative ones and in questions. That is why you may come across them as modal auxiliaries. Now, I don't particularly agree with this, but you may find them. So, for giving or asking advice, we have should. You should always learn something about the country before visiting it. Should I invite our agents out to dinner after the meeting? He shouldn't ask so many questions. And here's what I was talking about a moment ago. Should, as in affirmative sentences, in questions, and in negative ones, right? So, should is the go to structure when we're talking about advice, when we are giving it, as in the first case, and in the last one, and when we are asking for it, as in the second. Oh, we have another one. I think we should find out more about them before signing the contract. The point of this last example is to illustrate how we use them, should, with other verbs such as think and suggest. Two other examples that we can use to show, to give advice: they must pay their bills on time in the future, and they mustn't refuse is if they're offered a small gift. Must, as a modal verb, you're going to see in this video, has tons of uses. In the case of advice, or when we use must to give advice, we are showing a strong advice. This is my opinion, and it's a strong one. Following this line of thought, we're going to enter the following idea, that of obligation and necessity, and once again, must appears. We must show more cultural understanding. We must ask them to dinner, yes, when they're over here. You mustn't smoke inside any building. And I'm going to present other two that we're going to explore in a moment. You have to get a visa to enter the country, and you have to renew your residence permit after 3 months. Let's focus on the first three that deal with must. When talking about obligation or necessity, must shows first, this is my point of view. That's why it's very much related to strong advice, because this is what I think is right. This is my point of view, the person's point of view, the person who is speaking or writing. That applies to the first two cases. In the case of the third, we're talking about prohibition. This is not allowed, mustn't. It's very important to mark that this is the negative form of the modal verb. Prohibition, that is, must, doesn't show prohibition in its affirmative form. In its affirmative form, it shows strong advice and my point of view, simply what I think is right. What what modal verb should we use when we want to talk about um, what is allowed? That is have to. Oh, that's my mistake. It's not prohibition. It's what is the law, let's say, when it is a formal rule. This is what you have to do. If we compare must and have to, the nature of the obligation that must conveys is internal. My point of view, once again. Whereas when the obligation is shown by means of have to, it is imposed on me, either because it is a rule, because it is a law, because it is a company policy, but it is something that I have to obey, right? Let's go to this lack of obligation or necessity. You don't have to hurry. We have plenty of time. That is, we may hurry. It's up to us, but we have time. So there is no need for us to hurry. I show that by means of don't have to. Let's compare. We mustn't rush into a new partnership too quickly. We don't have to make a decision for at least 6 months. The first sentence, show by means of must, expresses my point of view. This is what I believe. I strongly believe it, that's why I use must, but it's still my point of view. In the second sentence, I'm showing we have a choice, right? We have 6 months. We may make this decision in 2 months, in four, but we've got six. So we may show advise, should, strong advise, must. When it comes to the source, that is it personal or is it external? Is it internal obligation, must, or is it external obligation, have to? And then, of course, must and its multiple uses. As we said, advise, obligation, prohibition. So, as you know, practice makes perfect, so make sure to follow the link on this description box to access, as always, to activities on this topic. And since you're here, why don't you stay for another couple of minutes and check out some of our videos. So, that's it. Thanks for watching.